The rubber section was shaped like a pussy, including the clitoris. It cost $5.95, he told me. We drank for 3 or 4 hours, then he left. The next day, I looked the rubber object over. I took the straw out. The hole was too small. I thought of slicing it larger with a razor. I rejected that, then threw it on the top shelf of the cupboard. It sits behind me now, and I have no idea what to do with it. Face of a political candidate on a street billboard. There he is. Not too many hangovers. Not too many fights with women. Not too many flat tires. Never a thought of suicide. Not more than 3 toothaches. Never missed a meal. Never in love. 4 pairs of shoes, a son in college, a car 1 year old, insurance policies, a very green lawn, garbage cans with tight lids. He'll be elected. Keep sex out of these things, you guys loosen up, huh? God almighty. Big gray balloon things, heavy. Into the elephant's ass shoots the sun. Well, not entirely into the elephant's ass shoots the sun. Hardly halfway into the elephant's ass shoots the sun. Hardly at all into the elephant's ass shoots the sun. It's rather closed up, and the tail gets in the way. And who started this, anyhow? Did you ever see elephants lined up in the afternoon, leaning against each other sideways? You have to see them from the rear, the way they lean, the way they sway, back and forth against each other. It's like a tide in the sea. They sway, and their little tails flick and flick eternally. And you know they like the sun, the way they sway in the sun dreaming, they sway in the sun, but very little sun gets into their elephant asses. This is about all there is to know about elephants. This is not about penguins. We're going to switch to giraffes now. The giraffe. Here's this male giraffe. He wants it, but the female's not ready. And the male leans against her. He wants it. He pushes against her, follows her around. Those tiny heads up in the sky. Their eyes are blobs of brown. The next rock they bump, walk about. 2 things hung in the air. Those stupid legs, those stupid necks. He wants it, she doesn't care. This is the way the gods have arranged it for the moment. One caring, one not caring. And the people watch and throw peanuts and flowers and chunks of green and blue icicles. They don't care either. That's the way the gods have arranged us. I spent a lot of time at racetracks, zoos, and porno bookstores, and college poetry readings. My mother took me away from her breast at an early age. I care for you, darling. I love you. The only reason I fucked L is because you fucked Z. And then I fucked R and you fucked N. And because you fucked N, I had to fuck Y. But I think of you constantly. I feel you here in my belly like a baby. Love, I'd call it. No matter what happens, I'd call it love. And so you fucked C. Then before I could move, you fucked W. So then I had to fuck D. But I want you to know that I love you. I think of you constantly. I don't think I've ever loved anybody like I love you. Bow wow, bow wow wow, bow wow, bow wow wow. Rexall cut rate, 4:30 p.m. This woman at the counter ahead of me was buying 4 pairs of panties, yellow, pink, blue, and orange. The lady at the register kept picking up the panties and counting them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then she counted them again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Will there be anything else? She asked the lady who was buying the panties. No, that's it, she answered. No cigarettes or anything? No, that's it. The woman at the register rang up the sale, collected the money, gave change, looked off into the distance, and then she bent under the counter and got a bag and put the panties in this bag, one at a time. First the blue pair, then the yellow, then the orange, then the pink. She looked at me next. How are you doing today? Fair, I said. Is there anything else? Cigarettes? All I want is what you see in front of you there. I had hemorrhoid ointment, laxative, and a box of paper clips. She rang it up, took my money, made change, and handed me my things, bagged. Have a nice day, she said, and you too, I said. It was up in Northern California, and he stood in the pulpit and had been reading for some time. He'd been reading poems about nature and the inherent goodness of man. He felt that everything was all right, and you couldn't blame him. He was a professor, had never been in jail or in a whorehouse, had never had a used car die during a freeway traffic jam. He'd never needed more than 3 drinks in his wildest of evenings. He'd never been rolled, flogged, mugged. He'd never been bitten by a dog. He got gracious letters from Gary Snyder, and his face was kindly, unmarked, and tender. His wife had never betrayed him, nor had his luck. He said, I'm just going to read 3 more poems, and I'm going to step down from here and let Bukowski read. Oh no, William, said all the little girls in their pink and blue and white and orange and lavender dresses and panties. Oh no, William, read us some more, read us some more. So he read that poem and he said, I'm going to read just 2 more poems, and I'm going to let Bukowski read. Oh no, William, said all the little girls in their purple and organdy and fuchsia and gold dresses and panties. Oh no, William, read us some more, read us some more. He read that poem and then he said, this will be the last poem that I will read. Oh no, William, said all the little girls in their red and green and see-through dresses. Oh no, William, said all the little girls in their tight blue jeans with little hearts sewn upon them. Oh no, William, said all the little girls with panties of similarity. Read us more poems, read us more poems. But he was good to his word. He got the poem out, and he got down and vanished somewhere. As I got up to read, the little girls joggled and wiggled in their seats, and some of them hissed, and some of them made remarks to me, which I will use at some later date, because this particular goddamn poem has to end somewhere. Anyway, it was 2 or 3 weeks later when I got this letter from William, saying that he did enjoy my reading. He was a true gentleman. I was in bed in my underwear with a 3-day hangover. I lost the envelope, but I took the letter and folded it into one of those paper airplanes I learned to make in grammar school. It sailed about the room and landed between an old racing form and a pair of shit-stained shorts. We have not corresponded since then. I realize the total audience does not melt down to one individual. Thank you. Two horse collars. I'm hot now, he said, and lined a single to center. Next up, he tripled, then drew a walk. 4th at-bat, he homered. 5th at-bat, he doubled. I'm hot now, he said, then sang in the shower. When he got to his place, his woman wasn't there. He went to the dresser drawer, got what he needed, went over to Mike's and broke the door down. They were in bed together. At the last moment, he got the truth of it, changed his mind, put the gun into his mouth and pulled the trigger. Next day, they had a rookie up from Memphis in his spot. The kid went 0 for 4, suckered on the changeup and the low and inside. But he was good with the women, and that's more important than any .364. Which one? All right. She told me what a great writer I was, and what a great lover I was, and what fine hands and feet I had, and what a wonderful belly. And I told her, listen, I don't love you, and I want you to understand that, so don't get yourself involved. Then I climbed back into bed with her. I don't understand why she was so bitter when I left her 3 months later. She had a television the length of her bed. I used to lay there in the mornings after she went to work. The maid came at 10 a.m. and fixed me eggs, toast, and coffee, sometimes with bacon, sometimes without. And there was always orange juice. But I didn't like her friends or her dog, and I tired of her expense account dinners at the best restaurants under candlelight. So I left her 3 months later after having promised her nothing. I don't understand why she's still so bitter. I'm still a great writer, and I'm still a great lover. And what I see on television in the mornings now isn't any better than what I saw then. But other things are. You know, that dog of hers was really a most obnoxious beast. And after the maid left in the mornings, I used to kick his ass. All up and down that Hollywood Hills patio. Next poem, Free. There's this airline that gives free champagne, but I've been on it before. When the stewardess came by, I said no. It came right out of the bottle. The stewardesses went up and down giving refills. It was a smooth flight, but then it began. Restroom runs. Lines formed. Paper bags came out. I sat there listening to the moaning and the puking. When we got to the airport, they were still going. Some puked as they waited for their baggage. Others puked on the escalators, on the parking lot ramps. Some puked in their cars while driving home. Some were still puking at home. When I got home, I switched on the news, opened a beer, and let the bathwater run. This is what Brando would do if he were reading. Then he'd put him back on. The beer's getting to me, you see. Get your hopes up.
All right.
Come on, yeah. The avoidance of boredom. Look, he said, we gotta have 3. Why, I asked. Because 2 is too boring, he said. Oh, I said. Walk up the plank, he said. The baby's asleep downstairs. I walked up the plank and entered the room through the window. This is Rita, he said. Hello, Rita, I said. Rita was on the bed. You did all right, he said. Ralph was drunk when he came up the plank. He fell and broke his back. Tell Ralph I said hello when you see him, I said. We got everything, he said. We got speed, pot, cocaine. We got whips, dildos, leather accessories. Rita got up, pulled her dress over her head, and took off her panties. I took out my penis and started playing with it. How are things going, he asked. I can't complain, I said. I've survived without visible employment for 5 years now. Get in, said Rita. I disrobed and got in. He disrobed and got in the other side. It was a splendid day in spring, and outside we could hear the birds that hadn't been killed by the smog. That poem won a $100 prize from the New York Quarterly, but I haven't gotten a check, and it was 3 months ago. But the sex fiends. I go to this rehabilitation center with my sister, he said. And the sex fiends all sit together. They're all guys 5 feet tall or under. And this one guy, they call him the rabbit. Well, the rabbit's problem is that he propositions every woman he sees. He just walks up and asks them to go to bed with them. I think that's very honest, I said. Some very greasy characters use the roundabout approach. Maybe so, he said, but still got the rabbit into trouble. In fact, he said, the rabbit saw a woman at the center and he walked up to her and said, will you go to bed with me? And the woman said no, and the rabbit said, I'll give you $1. Then all the sex fiends went into this room to masturbate, and the rabbit was working away when the therapist walked in and he tried to rape her. Yeah, what happened? Oh, she just pushed him off and walked out. By the way, I asked, what were you doing there? Oh, he said, I'm a sex fiend. I go every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Do you want to come with me next week? I ought to, I said, but I like to sleep late in the morning. Thank you for waiting on that beer. I'm just going to read you 2 more poems, but they're a little bit long. Oh no, Charles. If you don't know what love is, this is a love poem. So dig. Using a 1932 expression. Love. Sally was a sloppy leaver. She was good with the notes. She wrote them with a large, indignant hand. Sally was always indignant. She was good at that. And she always took most of her clothes. I'd open the bottle, sit down, and look about. And there'd be a pink slipper under the bed. I'd finish the drink and get down under the bed and throw the pink slipper in the trash. Next to the pink slipper, I'd find a pair of shit-stained panties. And there were hairpins everywhere. In the ashtray, on the dresser, in the bathroom. And her magazines were everywhere, their exotic covers. Man rapes girl. Then throws her body from 400-foot cliff. 9-year-old boy rapes 4 women in Greyhound bus room rest stop. Sets fire to her suppository disposal units. Sally was a sloppy leaver. In the top drawer next to the Kleenex, I'd find all the notes I'd ever written her. Neatly bound with 3 or 4 sets of rubber bands. And she was sloppy with photos. I'd find one of both of us crouched on the hood of our 58 Plymouth. Sally showing a lot of leg and grinning like a Kansas City gun mall from out of the 20s. And me showing the bottoms of my shoes with the circular waving holes in them. And there were photos of dogs, all of them ours, and photos of children, most of them hers. Every hour and 20 minutes, the phone would ring, and it would be Sally and a song from the jukebox, some song I hated. And she'd keep talking, and I'd hear men's voices. Sally, Sally, forget the fucking phone. Come down. Sit back down with us, baby. You see, she'd say, there are other men in the world beside you. Your opinion only, I'd answer. I could have loved you forever, Bandini, she'd say. Get fucked, I'd say, and hang up. Bandini is manure, all right, but it's also the name I'd given myself after a rather emotional and childish character in a novel written by some Italian in the 1930s. I'd pour another drink, and while looking for scissors in the bathroom to trim the hair around my ears, I'd find a brassiere in one of the drawers and hold it up to the light. The brassiere looked all right from the outside, but inside there was a stain of sweat and dirt, and the stain was darkened, melded in there, as if no washing would ever take it out. I'd drink my drink, then begin to trim the hair around my ears, deciding that I was quite a handsome man. But I'd lift weights, go on a diet, get a tan, anyhow. Then the phone would ring again, and I'd lift the receiver, hang up, lift the receiver again, and let it dangle by the cord. I'd trim my ears, my nose, my eyebrows, drink another hour or two, then go to sleep. I'd be awakened by a sound I'd never quite heard before. It would feel and sound like the warning of an atomic attack. I'd get up and look for the sound. It would be the telephone still off the hook, but the sound that came from it was much like 1,000 wasps burning to death. I'd pick up the phone. Sir, this is the desk clerk. Your phone is off the hook. All right, sorry, I'll hang up. Don't hang up, sir. Your wife is on the elevator. My wife? She says she's Mrs. Budinsky. All right, it's possible. Sir, can you get her off the elevator? She doesn't understand the controls. Her language is abusive toward us, and she says that you'll help her. And sir, yes? We didn't want to call the police. Good. She's laying down on the floor of the elevator, sir, and she has urinated upon herself. Okay, I'd say, and hang up. I'd walk out in my shorts, drink in hand, cigar in mouth, and press the elevator button. Up it would come. 1, 2, 3, 4. The doors would open. There would be Sally, and little delicate trickles and ripples of water lines drifting about the elevator floor, and some blotchy pools. I'd finish the drink, pick her up, carry her out of the elevator. I'd get her to the apartment, throw her on the bed, and pull off her wetted panties, skirt, and stockings. Then I'd put a drink on the coffee table near her, sit down on the couch, and have another for myself. Suddenly, she'd sit straight up, look around the room. Bandini, she'd ask. Over here, I'd wave my hand. Oh, thank God. Then she'd see the drink and drink it right down. I'd get up, refill it, put cigarettes, ashtray, and matches nearby. Then she'd sit up again. Who took my panties off? Me. Me who? Bandini. Bandini, you can't fuck me. You pissed yourself. Who? You. She'd sit straight up. Bandini, you queer, you dance like a queer, you dance like a woman. I'll break your goddamn nose. You broke my arm, Bandini. Don't you go breaking my nose. Then she'd put her head back on the pillow. I love you, Bandini, I really do. Then she'd start snoring. I'd drink another hour or two, and then I'd get into bed with her. I wouldn't want to touch her at first. She needed a bath, at least. I'd get one leg up against hers. It didn't seem too bad. I'd try the other. I'd start to remember all the good days and the good nights. Slip one arm under her neck. Then I'd have the other around her belly, and my drunken penis gently up against her crotch. Her hair would come back and climb into my nostrils. I'd feel her inhale heavily, then exhale. We'd sleep like that most of the night and into the next afternoon. Then I'd get up and go to the bathroom and vomit, and then she'd have her turn. Sickening. One for the road, one beer and one poem. I've earned my keep. One for the shoe shine man. The balance is in the snails climbing the Santa Monica cliffs. The luck is in walking down Western Avenue and having one of the girls from a massage parlor holler out at you, "Hello, sweetie." The miracle is in having 5 women in love with you at the age of 55. And the goodness is that you're only able to love one of them. The gift is in having a daughter more gentle than you are, whose laughter is finer than yours. The placidity is in being able to drive a blue 67 volts through the streets like a teenager, radio on to the host who loves you most, feeling the sun, feeling the solid hum of the rebuilt motor, as you needle through traffic, pissing off the dead. The grace is in being able to like rock music, symphony music, jazz, anything that contains the joy of original energy. And the mathematic which returns the deep blue low, yourself flat upon yourself within the guillotine walls, angry at the sound of the phone or at anybody's footsteps passing. And then the other mathematic, the imitative lilting high which follows, making the guys who sit on the benches outside the taco stands look like girls, making the girl at the check stand in the supermarket look like Marilyn, like Jackie before they got her Harvard lover, like Zaza, like the girl in high school that all us boys followed home. And the neatness which helps you believe in something else besides death is Sandy Hawley bringing in 5 winners at Hollywood Park on off-form horses, none of them favorites, or somebody in a car approaching you on a street too narrow, and he or she pulls aside to let you by, or the old fighter Bo Jack's shining shoes. After blowing the entire bankroll on parties, on women, on parasites, humming, blowing on the leather, working the rag, looking up and saying, "What the hell? I had it for a while. That beats the other." I act very bitter sometimes, but the taste has often been sweet. It's only that I've feared to say it. It's like when your woman says, "Tell me you love me," and you can't say it. Have you ever seen me grinning from my blue folks running a yellow light, driving straight into the sun without dark shades. I will only be locked into the afternoon of a crazy life. Think of a trapeze artist, of midgets with big cigars, of a Russian winter in the early 40s, of Chopin with his bag of Polish soil, or an old waitress bringing me an extra cup of coffee and seeming to laugh at me as she does so. The best of you I like more than you think. The others don't count, except that some of them have fingers and heads, and some of them have eyes, and most of them legs, and all of them bad dreams and good, and a way to go. The balance is everywhere, and it's working, and the machine guns and the frogs and the hedges will tell you so. Good night. See you later at the party. Good night.
Southern part of Orange County, and went up, then drove up the coast and spent some time with John Lilly, the man who has done a lot of research on dolphin intelligence. I had some interesting conversations with John, and spent some time last night in his tank that he's invented. He got the idea from sensory deprivation experiments. I don't think it's sensory deprivation whatsoever. But John has built these boxes that they must be about 8 feet by 6 feet, and in the boxes they're watertight, and in the boxes is about 8 inches of water. And in the water has been dissolved an enormous poundage of Epsom salts, magnesium hydroxide or whatever Epsom salts is, so that there's this incredibly dense fluid. As a matter of fact, it feels oily on your skin that's in the bottom of these boxes. And you float very high in this fluid. In other words, in about 8 inches of it, you're just suspended. It's very close to being weightless. You just take off your clothes and step into this box and lower the lid so you're in total blackness and you're suspended nearly weightless in this fluid, and the fluid is body temperature. And the idea is if you're in a state of sensory deprivation, and you'll be able to utilize your consciousness more clearly and more lucidly, and given the ability to learn to use this state, that you'll be able to meditate. And I went in with high ambitions to meditate on a specific 9th century Tang Dynasty style of Buddhism that was introduced to me by my friend Gary Snyder, and that intrigues me greatly. And I ended up playing like a a seal in this fluid for about an hour and a half, while time just seems to zing by. First, I've drawn myself up very seriously. Now I will lay here stark naked in this dark box full of heavy fluid, meditate on Huayan Buddhism. Why? But isn't that interesting? And wouldn't it be interesting to move my hands like this? And then I'm studying a couple of physiological body disciplines called Alexander Method and another one called Feldenkrais. There's nothing mystical about them. They're strictly physical investigations that are in which you learn to utilize your body and extend your spine in new ways. And I found out it was really wonderful to be in there and to do all these kind of things that my Feldenkrais instructor and my Alexander instructor had been trying to get me to do, laying on floors or on tables. I was able to do them in there. But I ended up reciting poetry. And it's a wonderful, subtle thing when you get that relaxed. I found all of the subtle ways to say things that I've felt at various times and forgotten at other times. I hope I can bring some of that to this reading tonight. I don't know whether I can or not. A poem that usually what I do is I read or recite or whatever, the first poem that I wrote that I keep around, which was done in 1951, so that people understand that I'm three-dimensional, that I'm not just going to come in here and read my most recent poetry to you, although that's what I'd like to do. I'll recite a poem of mine that I wrote a long time ago, 1951, when I was trying to write in the manner of Blake, and not mystic, big, hairy, old, ancient, prophetic William Blake, but little boy William Blake having visions of angels. And it goes, "My mother said to me tonight that I am dead 10 years, and bending o'er my crib she bled a multitude of tears. And yet I think that isn't right. Oh, mother, you are wrong. For round about my bed would stand 4 angels deep in song. For when the ground is white with frost, the angels fly and sing. But when the ground is wet with tears, the empty forest rings. Oh, mother, mother, laugh for me. The earth is black and dead. And sing a final song for me, and light the final flame." Sorry, I can't. Who can't hear me? Where are you? Okay, because I can project. Good. I can project this all the way to the back. That's good to know. Time in 1954 was people like Jackson Pollock, Clifford Still, and Mark Rothko, and the abstract expressionist painters. And I wanted to tie, can you hear me all right now? Wanted to tie together what the abstract expressionist painters were doing in terms of creating spiritual autobiography with what we wanted to do in our new poetry. And I just was in the process of rediscovering my interest in biology. I recited this for John Lilly last night. We were talking about brain size, comparing brain size in dolphin, in Cro-Magnon man, and in chimpanzee, and in human beings. I hate to tell you how we rate on that. Linked part to part, toe to knee, eye to thumb, motile, feral, a blockhouse of sweat, the smell of the hunt, a stench, my fetor, the eye, a bridegroom of torture. Colors are linked by spirit. Euglena, giraffe, frog, creatures of grace, rishi of their own right. As I walk, my legs say to me, "Run, there is joy in swiftness." As I speak, my tongue says to me, "Sing, there is joy in thought." And the size of the word is its own flight from cravatousness. And the leaf is an ache. I love an ache in the back. The stone is a creature. A palisade. The inside whitewash. A pale tuft of grass. Now some of those pauses have little dots to show the length of the pauses. This is where some of the actual physical influence of painting was coming in. One of the things that I did last night in this tank, I'd always been kind of afraid. I wrote some poems much later, 5, 6 years later than what that poem. I wrote some poems in a language called beast language, invented poems in an inventive language. I call the language beast language. English melts in and out of them. And I was always kind of afraid to recite one of these poems because it has the word grar. It's a grar mantra. And grar is spelled many different ways. There are many grars. And it starts out kind of semi-coherently in English. And I was always kind of afraid if I ever started to recite that thing and got to the grars, I might just go on saying grar for hours. So last night, and it was always kind of scary for me, I know a lot of these by heart. So last night when I was in the tank, I thought, oh, what the hell, I'm in this tank in the dark, floating in bodies.